Thank you very much for being here tonight. You guys are a great group of patriotic Americans to come out, spend your Monday night here. I mean that seriously. My name is George Selmont. My friends and family call me Jess, just for my initials. Hopefully you will all come to call me Jess in the future. And I am one of the two candidates here for to be the Democratic candidate for U.S. Congress in the 6th. I'm sorry, what's the first question?
Just
who we are?
Okay.
I am a graduate of Bard College, Northeastern University School of Law, Harvard University, and Yale University. Both those are master's degrees. I was a White House intern for President Clinton, and I've been successful in law and in business and higher education. I've been married for 24 years to my wife. We have 2 boys who are in college. We have 3 homes. We're very fortunate. We have our primary residence, which is in Elkton, Florida, which is in St. Johns County. I have a beach house in Ponte Vedra. And then we have a horse property in South Carolina, which we rent for $1 for 10 years to a not-for-profit that breeds the indigenous local horses in South Carolina, if any of you are horse people. I know this district extremely well. I think that if you have kids, especially kids who are athletic, you find that you spend a lot of your times on the bleachers, sometimes boiling hot aluminum bleachers, located throughout the 6 counties here at baseball parks and football stadiums. We had our own state championship game right down the street here in Daytona Stadium, our high school championship game. One of my sons attended Embry-Riddle last year. I've been fortunate to consult over at Bethune-Cookman. And my face is recognized in Ace Hardwares from East Palatka to St. Augustine Beach to down here in Daytona. This is a really unique opportunity, this special election. I have respect for Josh. I think he's a talented candidate. I think there are some differences between the two of us, especially our theory of the race. And I think we'll probably get into that in the next few minutes, but appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Jess.
Well, good evening. My name is Josh Wheel, and I am your next U.S. Congressperson in Florida's 6th District. This has been an incredible race and campaign so far. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm a teacher. I've worked in Title I schools in Orange and Osceola County for the last 13 years, predominantly with at-risk and post-risk youth. For the last 3 years, I've been a member of the school leadership team at Kissimmee Middle School, which is a Title I school right in the heart of downtown Kissimmee. I first started politics, right? I got into this a couple years ago, and I think it's where I know some of the faces I see, I met the first time when I started a campaign for U.S. Senate at the end of 2020. We just won, right? It was a huge win with Biden, but there was something about the defeats that we had here in Florida that hurt in a way that I needed to be more active and engaged. Going out and canvassing for candidates or doing phone banks and supporting was great, but I felt like we needed candidates. I wanted to see candidates that reflected my values. I wanted to see candidates that got me excited and engaged because I felt like real change could come if these people were elected. And we have some good candidates, but it wasn't something that I was seeing enough of. It wasn't, we'd get to some of these big races and, the whole conversation and dialogue would be, they're better than the Republican, or, you still wouldn't want that. And I just was tired of hearing it. And so, I ran, and I'm a proud progressive. I feel that for all the money and resources we have in the United States of America, that we don't take care of people, that we have homelessness and housing insecurity, that we have 40,000 homeless vets, that we have, 60% of people have less than $400 in the bank account. The average net worth for people over 40 in this country is $213,000, and the average net worth for people under is $7,000. It's gotten to a way where, the United States of America should, before anything else, take care of the people who live here. And, that's the type of government that I want to be a part of, and that's how I want to represent and serve the people in this district.
Okay, the first question is to briefly describe any previous experience running for office and lessons learned from the experience. What makes running for this office now more appropriate for you instead of during the recent general election, which of course it was open for? So we'll start with you. We'll just go back.
Okay. So as I guess was just saying, in the 2022 cycle, I ran for U.S. Senate. So I started a campaign. I found all the information online with things like Run for Something and the resources at the FDP website. And, I started a campaign out of my garage during COVID, which was actually not the worst thing, because if you're running statewide and you have the opportunity to be in meetings in Pensacola and Miami at the same time, because they're all on Zoom, made it very handy for the first 4 to 6 months. But after that, it was hitting the road. It was getting out and traveling across the state. I visited all 67 counties. I met with Dem organizers and DECs, the clubs, caucuses, voters. We did meet and greets in parks. We had all sorts of events. And, there's a lot of red counties out there. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of districts where, even if you're targeting Dems or going through a neighborhood, you're going to run into Republicans. And, getting the opportunity to listen and hear what we're not getting otherwise really made me believe more than anything else that we should be winning this state. Whether they call themselves Republicans or not, you sit down and talk to them and the needs they have and the things that they want are what we're offering. But they've had 24-hour disinformation for the last 2 decades telling them it's not. One of my favorite stories is I was in a park and this Republican man came up and he wanted to talk to me about Medicare for all. And he's like, I know you're just trying to give health care to the illegal immigrants and you don't care about Americans and you want me to pay for it. And so I said, okay, sir, that's totally fine. I'm like, can you help me then? Can you describe, right? You build the program and I'll fight for it. So tell me, what type of health care program do we need? And this guy goes, well, first thing we need to do is get rid of the insurance companies, right? You need to get rid of the insurance companies and just make it so that way if I get sick, I can go to a hospital or I can go to my doctor, and if I need medicine or if I need my insulin, I can just go get it, and that, Americans, real Americans are taken care of, that all Americans can just get what they need when they're sick. And that man did a fantastic job of describing Medicare for all for me. He just didn't know it. We have what they want. And we just have to be able to get that messaging out to communicate and reach them. And so, that was a driving force for me the first time. I suspended my campaign before the filing deadline, so I wasn't on the ballot in 2022. But it's been a driving force of this campaign as well, of reaching out, being able to listen and to make those connections and help them recognize, where help is coming from. Because in this campaign right now, as we're faring, Republicans are coming up to me, they're scared about our schools. They're scared about the environment. They're scared about all the things that they're seeing from Donald Trump on the news, even though they just voted for him. He promised them cheaper groceries and gave them the Gulf of America. They have recognized this. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico has not helped them economically. They still need something.
As Josh said, he ran before an aborted campaign. In 2018, I ran a full campaign for U.S. Congress in the 4th District. I ran an 11-month campaign. I was the candidate in November in the general election against John Rutherford, the incumbent. We spent about $140,000 on that race. It was a very successful race. I learned a lot about being a candidate. I learned a lot about managing volunteers and managing staff. And hopefully I'm doing that a lot better this time. One of the benefits of qualifying and being the candidate in an 11-month race is that you get poked and prodded by all of you guys, and you come to these meetings an awful lot, and you stand up in front of a lot of people, and all your beliefs are on your website and on the internet and on social media, and so I've been vetted by the public. So you have somebody who's run on the first coast of Florida, who is a qualified candidate and qualified again for this election. What makes running for this office more appropriate? What I learned from that experience in a heavily gerrymandered district, which this district is heavily gerrymandered as well, is that it's really futile to run in those districts to win. It is very valuable to run to encourage voter turnout, to register people to vote. But these districts are mathematically designed to make it impossible for us to win, except in a special election. We have a small, like a little wedge in the pie chart, but we have a chance in this special election. And that is why both of us are running, because it's a special election, the rules are a little bit different, it's a sprint, and we have the gift from the Republicans of a horrendously unlikable Republican presumptive candidate in Randy Fine. I mean, this is a man who is a dumpster fire, a clown show, fill in the euphemism here. He's a carpetbagger, he's from South Florida, he's a casino gambling executive. When do they have your back, okay? So we're really handed an opportunity and a possibility, and that's why, and both of us are running.
So the lessons learned from the first experience?
Yeah, lessons learned from the first experience. It's incredibly humbling to get 4,000 votes. I mean, 120-something thousand people walking into a voting booth and seeing your name and pulling a lever. I mean, that is awesome, and it is humbling. The second thing is, and I'm sure Josh would back me up on this, we don't get any feedback until Election Day. Is that my time, or is that just somebody's? Okay. We don't get any feedback until Election Day. The only other feedback we get, honestly, is when y'all write a check. And I just want to tell you how sacred that is. Like when we go home at the end of the night and we go, how do we do tonight? And you turn on Act Blue and it's going ding, ding, ding. You go, wow, I resonated. I mean, I know cash in politics is crass, but it really does for a candidate. That's the only affirmation that we get, that you liked what we had to say and that you appreciate us campaigning and you want us to keep going. So honestly, when we joked about this, like every time Donald Trump drives you crazy, go to our websites and hit that $10, It'll make you feel good. I love that amortization schedule, I mean, would you take $1,000 or would you take $10 every time Trump pisses off a Democrat? I think we know which one we would pick. But so those are the things you really learn. You really learn that when somebody takes out a check and they write your name in cursive and they hand it to you or they lick a stamp, man, that means a lot as a candidate. And honestly, what a great pursuit this is, to talk to people about democracy all day long. I mean, it's not we're not doing this to get rich or famous. We're doing it because we are democracy addicts. And you guys are here, and that means you're democracy addicts too. And we're among our people. So that's what I learned from running.
So let's get to the meat of the matter. Why are you the better candidate to beat the Republican on April the 1st?
We disagree on this. Look, we have a small chance. We have a tiny chance. This is a 30% Democrat district and a 70% ain't Democrat district, okay? 30-70. all right? That's how it is, and it's going to be that way. We lost in November by those percentages, and Kamala Harris was a great candidate. But we lost. When you lose with great candidates, there's only one reason you lose, and that's because the public ain't buying what we're selling. And the American public is not buying what Democrats are selling right now. That's it, okay? I am a moderate. I am a moderate Democrat, okay? I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I'm a moderate. In this district, okay, there is not going to be a blue wave 2 months from tomorrow, 2 months and 2 weeks from tomorrow. It's not going to happen, okay? It is not going to turn blue in 74 days. Not going to happen, okay? There is a chance, a little chance, that with a horrific candidate on the other side, if we run a moderate Democrat who's from the district, that we have an opportunity to win. I do not believe that my good friend Josh from Orlando, I do not think that the people in this district, in a 30-70 district, are going to turn out in 2 months and elect somebody who is progressive. Okay? Josh is a progressive. He has been endorsed by a large amount of progressive groups, and I'm sure a lot of people here are progressive. Okay? But I need you in this election to vote with your head, not your heart. And you know the people you stand next to in Publix. You know the people you stand next to when you're at church. You know the people you stand next to in this community. They're not voting progressive in 2 months. It's not going to happen. The only possible chance that we have to turn this district over is with moderate Democratic views. And what are those views? Those views are, I support my party when it's right, and when party's wrong, I'll say it, okay? Prices went up under President Biden, okay? The border was a mess under President Biden, okay? I have a lot of respect for President Biden, and he did a lot of good. But we have to take ownership of the things that failed. We had Democratic presidents for 12 of the last 16 years. 12 of the last 16 years, Democratic presidents. We own half of this mess. And the public around here knows that. We need to go to the public as Democrats humbly, and instead of top down telling them what they need us to do for them and how foolish they are for not doing what we tell them, we have to go to them and say, I want to be your representative, I will listen to you, and I will hear you. That's why I feel that I'm the right person to run. The issues here locally that I think are most important are all land issues. Okay, we have seawater coming up from underneath our ground that is turning our wells salty. We have coastlines that need to be hardened. We have power that goes out when the wind blows, and we have streets that never flooded before that now flood in a light rain. Okay, we have farms in this district. If you guys get outside of Daytona and Volusia, you drive out there, you see we have a lot of farms in this district, and we are plowing under our farms, and instead of planting cabbage and tomatoes, we are planting tract homes. It is unsustainable to use our land like that. Okay? Insurance is unaffordable for people. The federal flood insurance program is always on the brink of insolvency. Tallahassee has been useless. We need federal solutions to our land use problems. We need federal solutions to our insurance problems. Okay? The state-by-state insurance rubric where insurance companies can just pull out of a state right before you put in losses, that can't go on anymore. Okay? But all of our issues in this district have to do with our land, and our economy cannot be based on our land. So that's why I'm running, that's why I'm the unique candidate for this, and that's our path for moving forward. A moderate Democrat in this district who's going to listen to people and hear them.
I think a lot of it comes down to messaging. Messaging has been what has hurt our candidates in this district in the past. Bishop Stockton, who just ran in November, is a great man and was a fantastic candidate. But when you only raise $34,000 and your opponent raises over $3 million, you're at a 100-to-1 disadvantage in funding and spending. Messaging ain't free. We have to be able to raise money to get our message out, and we have to have a message that people can believe in. And as inspiring as Jess's message of "we can't win" and "people don't like Democrats" might be, I think that we can do a little bit better. I'm proud to say that since starting this campaign on December 5th, we have raised over $300,000 in Josh Wheel for Congress with over 13,000 individual donors. These are numbers that the District 6 congressional race has not seen since 2018. Right? Now, we know Bishop Stockton lost by R+32, and that's what we keep hearing. Randy Fine was asked the other day how he's going to campaign, how he's going to pivot or turn after January 28th. So I don't got a campaign. Didn't you see what happened in November? We won by 32 points. Well, R+32 isn't indicative or representative of the people there when one candidate can get his message out at 100 times the power of the other. Right? If we go back 2 years before that, we didn't have a Dem candidate, but back in 2020, the Democratic nominee for Congress in District 6 only raised $24,000. In 2018, we had a candidate with competitive funding, and it was an R+12 district. Okay? Do they have more registered voters than us? Yes, that's acknowledged fact. But the power of messaging, if you can afford to get your message out to people, there are people who will respond to it. And what we've seen in the past in 2018 when Jess ran in District 4 is that people did not respond to a moderate message. The Division of Elections releases the splits for the gubernatorial race from every congressional district. And while Jess earned 32% of the vote in that district, on the exact same ballot, in the exact same ruby red East Coast Florida district, Andrew Gillum earned 47%. 47%, right? Progressive policies got 47% of a vote in a ruby red district in November that year. 50,000 people started their ballot by bubbling in the little circle next to Andrew Gillum, got one slot down, saw Jess's name, and swerved right to John Rutherford. Okay? We can talk about if you think a moderate is successful in Florida or not, but the election results don't lie. Right? And look, we look around our state and we know who are our most successful, who are our most popular Democrats that are in office right now. Noted moderates like Maxwell Frost and Anna Eskamani. Right? People need hope. People need to know that there is someone who is willing to work for them, regardless of who they are or where they're from, because every single person matters. Every single person deserves to be able to live and live comfortably. We have to eliminate housing insecurity. We have to make sure people have access to health care. We have to preserve Social Security, right? And this is not, we have to preserve Social Security for Democrats. We have to preserve Social Security for everyone. And these messages do resonate with everyone because everyone is hurting. Everyone needs help right now. And I'll tell you, we've been out there campaigning, we've been canvassing across all 6 of these counties, knocking on doors, talking to people, and Republicans are listening because they didn't get the answers they wanted 2 months ago. So yeah. Is that my time? So yes, I believe we can win because it's a special election and it doesn't matter how many registered Republicans there are like it did in November. When we have 95% turnout in November, yeah, if you have more registered Republicans, you're winning. Special elections are expected to have between 25 to 40%. So then it's all about how many people can you get out. Who can get out more voters? And right now, Randy Fine is publicly on record that he's going to give me the longest runway possible before he wakes up and realizes that he's got a race on his hands and he needs to start getting out there. Right? So we are raising the money, we are building the team, and we have the people in place who can get this message out to voters and make sure voters turn up because we know that when we vote.
Well, I think you both know already that we have 2 really articulate candidates here. I'm really enjoying this. but I'm an addict too. Okay, so what strategies should Democrats in Congress, because that's where you want to be, use to prevent the incoming president from implementing policies harmful to the American people? As an example, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee just had a election for the ranking member. It was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I think was a moderate from Virginia, Jerry Conley, I believe it was. And Jerry Conley was selected. So if you were voting, if you had been up there already, who would you have voted for in that particular race? So strategies Democrats need to do in Congress to stop the agenda of the incoming president.
AOC. It's AOC. The Progressive Caucus has continued to grow in Congress over the last number of years, and you can tell the power that they can and should command by the way that Nancy Pelosi has had to respond to them. The fact that we've seen multiple standoffs in Congress over the last 2-3 sessions between Pelosi and Jayapal in terms of how votes are going to go, let you know that the progressive portion of Congress is important enough and can make that change. Why some of the elder statesmen in our party are not recognizing that, why they'll talk all day that, money's the most important thing. Can you fundraise? Can you bring money? That's what makes a strong Democrat, until Maxwell Frost and AOC start raising as much money as them. And then suddenly, well, no, you need to have more experience, or you need to be able, you need to be more moderate. Even though people are voting with their dollars, people are voting with their votes, and people are telling you what they want. People want health care. And that doesn't, a plan like Medicare for All doesn't work for Congress people who, take contributions from Aetna and Blue Cross. It doesn't work if, you're there trying to play a financial game. If you're there to try to make money because you know which stocks to buy after you leave your committee meeting. If you're there to actually help people or make a change, that's who should be in charge, right? And, I'm sure Jerry Conley is a fine man, but I would have taken AOC.
But what strategies should Democrats be using in the Congress to block, because they're not the majority right now?
Is that the next question?
No, it's all part of the same question.
I thought that was
Number
4.
three. No, we're on number 3 here.
Yeah.
What strategies?
What strategies do you recommend?
No, that's
to
for
block
building
this?
Democratic Party registration.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about Congress. You guys want to be in Congress.
I was a math teacher, not a reading teacher, okay? For the record. We have to take back the House. We have to get the numbers to block them, and we have to make sure that no one gets sick for the next 4 years, because it's a razor thin. It's 219 to 215 right now, and Trump put 4 U.S. Congress people into his cabinet. So on January 21st, it's 215 to 215. The number one thing we can do is win these special elections, is we have to fight for our lives in these races. We have to support Gabe Valamont in District 1, who's already the Democratic nominee there, and we have to support me when I win this race on January 28th. But we have to get these candidates in, right? There are 4 races we actually get to control. In this district, 1 of them. In Florida, 2 of them. The other 2 are in red districts in Oregon and New York. They haven't been scheduled yet, but those are amazing opportunities for us, because even though it's a red district, you're talking about 2 states that have incredibly strong statewide Democratic parties, that have the resources and the people there that when they focus in on that one race, we can count on them to win as well. We take care of our business here, we flip the House, Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker, and we can stop Project 2025 before it starts.
So Jess, again, what strategies should Democrats in Congress be using? And I use the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which is a prominent committee, with the example of how the current makeup of the Democrats went with the moderate, as opposed to AOC.
Yeah, look, AOC is a rock star. I'm a huge fan of progressive candidates where they can win. and she's a New York City congressperson, and she can win there. I mean, there are progressive pockets of this country. You know, so totally support her, Jamie Raskin. I mean, there are a lot of people who are very qualified congresspeople to lead that committee. Okay, but I have no animus against progressives or against AOC. She's a rock star. She's phenomenal. But it's interesting. This is a question about strategy, and I'm giving you strategy. Okay, this district ain't gonna turn blue in 2 months. Ain't gonna happen. I'm giving you strategy. Strategy that we should adopt in Congress is the strategy we should adopt here, which is the don't let the perfect be the enemy of the very good. Okay? We can take a strategic position and maybe win a seat here. Okay? We are not turning this district blue. 2 months away from November. Not going to happen. Be strategic. Please be strategic. Congress should be strategic. You should vote strategically. Vote with your head, not your heart. Vote with what we can accomplish in this district, which is we look at the people next to you in this district and say, Randy finds a dumpster fire. Do you think this district might elect a moderate in 2 months? You think we might be able to get that through these people? A moderate. That's strategic thinking. And Gavin Newsom, brilliant politician, is talking about strategic thinking when it comes to governors dealing with the Trump administration, when it comes to mayors dealing with the Trump administration, okay? Locally, we've learned this dealing with the DeSantis administration, right? When they come up with harebrained ideas to put pickleball courts in our state parks, right? What do? Gosh, you people organized on a dime. I mean, there were marchers with signs on the streets. And that's what we're going to have to do. Democracy's not free. Sometimes it runs on cruise control. Sometimes we have to fight for it. And for the next 4 years, our representatives in Congress are going to have to fight for it. And we as citizens are going to have to fight for it. And it's a worthy fight. But we need to be strategic. We cannot go 4 years of our hair being on fire. That plays into Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump wrote in his Art of the Deal book in the 1980s his theory of negotiating, right? He comes out and says, I'm going to build a skyscraper in Central Park. And everybody's hair turns on fire. And they go, no, 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 no. And he goes, okay, I'll build it on the edge. And they go, oh, thank God, we got him to. That's all he wanted. That's what he wanted, was to build a skyscraper on the edge of the park. Okay? This guy's hyperbole is designed to drive us crazy. Designed to make us not think strategically. Okay? I would love a blue wave. I would love to turn this district blue. You guys know this district. It's not turning blue in 74 days. But we have a chance with a historically bad candidate who's not from anywhere near here, who is a dumpster fire, that if we act strategically, we could maybe win this district. And that's what I'm asking you to do. And the reason I'm asking you to do that, TV networks, that all they do is cover politics. And this is the game in town, in our country, these two races in Florida. And the reason I got into this race, it was just kind of going back to the first question. The reason I got into this wasn't the reasons that Josh had, which are quite noble. I got into this because I was like, you know what? I wonder if we could show Democrats how to run and win against a MAGA opponent. Okay? Can we show them how to win against a MAGA opponent strategically? And that's what I'm asking you to do. Think strategically, act strategically, and let's strategic the heck out of these guys and take a seat back.
You do have time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be
please.
quick.
Yeah, and this is the.
I'm-
He still has time. That absolutely is the topic.
So I'll be quick on this. We'll move on to number 4. But I got to tell you, Jess and I do this. We've been doing this almost every night at different clubs and DECs. And hearing him plead with y'all not to vote for the better candidate never gets old.
I got 12 seconds.
Okay. You can use them. You're 11 seconds.
Good burn.
Okay. So, all right, next one. Now it's still a strategy question, but this one is about us in Florida. What strategies do you recommend to build Democratic registration in Florida? We're behind the eight ball right now, and to increase opportunities to win elections. Should Democrats be running everywhere or focus their resources on races considered more winnable?
I mentioned it before. We're candidates. People need to run, and candidates need to be encouraged. Okay. And I'm not speaking disparagingly of anybody, but when I ran in 2018, I didn't even get a thank you note from the Democratic Party, from our chair after we run. I mean, candidates, and I know boo hoo hoo, poor candidates, but candidates, they lay out a lot. And they get up there and they get poked and prodded in public, and people take opinions of them, and people go through their trash, and people go through them online, and it's very invasive. And we need to respect candidates just a little bit more. We did the same thing to Kamala. I mean, what an amazing candidate she is. Amazing. It's a woman who's an attorney general of one of the biggest economies in the world. And then she's the senator of that state. And then she's the vice president of the United States. And now it's like she's a butt of jokes from people. I mean, she's an amazingly impressive person. And she didn't try to lose. She ran into a buzzsaw. Okay? Same thing with Hillary. Oh my goodness, what a qualified woman. And the jokes and things that people say about them. So I think we really need to support candidates and make candidates want to run. And help candidates when they step up and say, hey, I do want to run. Second thing, structurally, is it is so helpful to have offices, DEC offices. We see the difference between places that are able to have an office. This event with this type of technology, this is the stuff that we need to do. And it's great that we have this. So really donating to your local DECs so that they can pay rent on locations, and they can have this technology. It is awesome. I am not, and just further on that, if you're with a losing team in another city, say you go to another city and everybody there is, it's Pittsburgh, and everyone wears a Steelers jersey, and you're from Cleveland, and you get tired wearing that Cleveland jersey because you always lose, right? And in Florida, in these districts, we get like that. The Trump people are loud and obnoxious. They are, and it cows us. And when we don't run candidates waving the white flag like that, it's really hard for people to come out and vote for a president or vote for a Senate candidate. So we really need to take that hit and run candidates everywhere. All right? And the last thing is the youth. You all get discouraged because they're not in the room. And you think there should be young people in the room. Young people aren't in a bowling alley. Young people aren't in a movie theater. They're on their phones. I was fortunate to be the keynote speaker at the March for Our Lives in St. Augustine in 2018. These kids are organized. They are political. They want to be involved. And they want to lead. The thing they don't like to do is they don't like jobs without respect. They don't like tasks without respect. They like to be treated with respect. They like to be given responsibility way younger than any of us were given responsibility. And that's a little bit odd to us because we all grew up in the you got to earn your stripes. And there are fewer of them. We could earn stripes because we were in a generation where there were a lot of kids. And so, the best kid was the manager at the fast food place. Nowadays, there are fewer younger people. So the kid is the manager at the fast food place, right? So we have to give the young Democrats more responsibility and realize that even though they're not in the room with us, they are out there working. And they hear us, and they see the mess that we've made with their country, and they're coming for us.
Just an editorial comment. One of my priorities, and I think the team that you all elected last month, is to involve more young Democrats, and young Hispanic Democrats, young African American Democrats particularly. That's where Volusia's headed. Josh, so the strategies for building Democratic registration, in Florida, increasing opportunities to win elections? Should we be running everywhere or focus resources on races we consider winnable?
We have another election actually coming up this month. It's just for us, but the Florida Democratic Party is electing their new officers on January 25th, and this has been no win, I think, for Nikki Fried. When she came in, there was a lot of people upset that in 2022 we had 3 U.S. congressional seats with no Democratic candidate. There were 3 of them where we had no one getting out messaging in those districts, and they told her, like, we need to be in every race. And then she made sure that we had 28 Democrats in 28 races, and people start screaming and getting mad that why are you diverting resources and spending money in races we can't win and not focusing it on just the ones that are important. It's a no-win, but the answer is yes. Should we be focusing resources on ones that are more winnable? Should we be running everywhere? Yes, we need to be doing all of it. It takes absolutely everything to win. It was something I remember when I went to my first leadership fair in education before I went and got my ed leadership through Stetson University in this county. I saw this woman speak, and she was a elementary school principal, and Orange County Public Schools had her in 3 different schools in the last 3 years. And the reason was because every time they put her into an F school, she turned it into an A school in 1 school year. The most amazing, as someone who works in school leadership, incomprehensible thing. Not only could she do it, but she could repeat it and do it over and over again. And when they asked her, well, what's the secret? What do you do? She said, everything. Everything. You can't make choices. You can't say, do we do this or do this? Yes. Like, do we need to reach out to more people? Yes. Do we need to get? Yes. You need to do absolutely everything if you're trying to make change. You can't, as much as we may want to pick and choose some of our battles, we have to keep pushing the entire front forward. And I would say more than anywhere else, it's in our U.S. congressional races. The U.S. congressional race is really the sweet spot on a ticket in terms of small enough geographical district. We'll leave the fact that this one goes from here to Ocala aside. Small enough geographical district that a candidate can manage a campaign and be out there personally making sure that all the doors are being knocked on and voters are being contacted, but large enough that it raises significant money to run an operation like that. And if we're going to have any chance in our statewide races for U.S. Senate or for governor coming up in 2026, we need to make sure that we have 28 candidates in there, because we cannot afford to give up 2 or 3 districts where there is no one carrying the weight for the ticket, right? Whoever is our next nominee for governor is not going to be able to spend every day in District 6. But whoever's the Democratic nominee, it'll probably be me running for re-election, but whoever's the Democratic nominee in 2026 for District 6 will be in District 6 every day. They will be leading that. We need 28 of those, and 28 of them might not exist right now, but I watched, it was my pleasure to be able to support and to watch Barbie Hardin Hall in District 11 this last year take a district that had been long ignored and forgotten and go out and hit the street every single day and get people excited about Democrats in a red district that no one had bothered because, hey, it's Daniel Webster's and he'll be there till he dies. And, she may not have won, but that's the type of pushing the line forward we need to make in every single one of these districts that we don't already have. And if we push the line forward with a candidate who can do that in this cycle, and in the next cycle, and in the next cycle, we will start taking those seats. We will start having the infrastructure to be able to win and compete in these areas. Because it's hard when you go to some of these districts or counties, you look up who's elected. We have more than half the counties in Florida have no Democrats in office. And there might be some Dems on school board that ran as MPAs, but there are no Ds next to the elected officials in more than half of the 67 counties in Florida. And there's a big difference between the access you have to the community as a candidate and as an elected representative, as someone serving. right? So the Republicans who own the state House seat or the state Senate seat or all of the seats up and down in these counties have access to go to schools and community events and work with, am I done? I'm done?
It's funny, it keeps coming back to being strategic. We are not good at being strategic. We got out-strategicked on the Supreme Court, didn't we, by Mitch McConnell? Okay? We got out-strategicked on gerrymandering, didn't we? All over. We consistently, as a party, get out-strategized by the other side, okay? Everybody asked, you all said, how did we lose in November? I'm telling you, you've got to be strategic. Look at this race. Go home tonight. It's not a progressive race. It's not a progressive district. It ain't turning blue. Be strategic, Democrats. We got a chance here. Vote for a moderate, okay? We got a chance. Be strategic. 2-1 there.
Okay, so this will be the last question that I prepared anyway. And this is, I don't know if you've ever had this question before, but I want you to ask each other, what is a question, Josh, that you would like to ask Jess to answer? And Jess, what question would you like Josh to answer?
Knowing that this congressional seat is as important as it is, and knowing that this race was giving such little time to operate in, why did you choose to wait 28 days from when you filed to begin running your campaign?
It's a good question. 2 reasons. One is that we really thought the holiday noise was not going to help us. We didn't think we would break through it. We didn't think that our mailers would go through people's mailboxes. We thought a lot of people wouldn't be here. So we set a January 2nd start date. Okay? We're doing a lot of things differently. You know, we're a green campaign. We have the money to print as many printed materials as we want to, but we're not. We're trying to reach people where they are digitally. We're trying to target people selectively through their mailboxes. We're not trying to cover the county with the districts with paper. And we looked at this as money spent in December was not going to be well spent. So we looked at this as a short sprint. We also didn't want to blow through money on the primary. We felt that there was an amount of money to spend on a primary. And we differ very greatly on this, the two of us. I don't think it's my duty in this campaign to drive turnout. I think that's the Florida Democratic Party's job, to drive turnout. Josh is an activist. Every minute of his day, he's driving turnout. You know, that's his theory of winning. My theory of winning is persuading the persuadables, and that the Florida Democratic Party's job is to turn out voters. So we have different approaches to it. So that's why I started late, or started on time for us. I thought of all kinds of like gotcha questions, and I'm not gonna ask you. I'm not gonna ask you why I'm the better candidate or anything like that. But I seriously, just personally, all the time we've spent together, I've never asked you about faith and your faith. And I was wondering if you could just, I just don't know anything about your faith, and I know you have some.
You know, I grew up being raised by a single mother. My parents divorced when I was 4. And although my mother is a born-again Christian who has been born again multiple times, they let you keep doing that, I'm told, she didn't really bring faith or practice anything in our home. So, for me growing up, honestly, a lot of the models or the things I looked for in terms of answers came from media or books or things I read, but I was not attached or attracted to, I didn't have a default faith. I didn't have anything that I knew I could kind of go back to. I found God in my early 20s. Some of the stupid things that you do in your early 20s will make you think really hard about, how to make things better or what you need to be doing better and how to get better. And I found God, but I found it, outside of organized religion. I found it, in a more spiritual practice, some men who had a close relationship with God were able to kind of share with me, how they spoke and how they listened. So I had faith that I tried to practice. I was told to try to be of maximum service to God and my fellows every day of my life. And, figuring out what maximum service meant is something that has continued to expand for me. I really, really hope that this is maximum service, because if I got to work harder than this, I need to keep training, and I probably do. I married a beautiful woman that I met in college. We got married in 2010, and she was raised Muslim, even though she's a white girl from New York. Her mother had converted to Islam before she was born, and her father was raised Muslim because his father had converted back in the 1950s. And when we moved back down here to Florida, she was very disconnected from her mosque and her community and the people that she knew. So I started visiting and going to mosques in the Central Florida area, and finding groups of, whether they were converts or white Muslims or young women or people that, to try to help her get reconnected and to her faith where she was struggling. And the more time we spent there, and the better relationship, the deeper relationship I got, I got a deep appreciation for the beauty of Islam and the message in the Quran. I took Shahada in 2011. I have no regrets over embracing Islam. The depth of text and resources to study, and that beautiful language, to try to understand a God that is nothing but love, really helped me for a number of years in my life. It gave me opportunities to be of service in the community, doing tremendous outreach with the Islamic Center of Orlando and Imam Tariq Rashid there. And, my two little white boys out there, although people wouldn't think it when they look at them, consider themselves Muslim. Haven't been to a mosque in a little while, especially with my divorce. Personally, where my faith is at is not the strongest place that it's been. And the way that I try to stay focused today, and what I've done with my work at Kissimmee Middle School or on this campaign is, I have two big things. I have these two young men out there that I'm raising who it's my responsibility to make sure that they are the best of this next generation, and they are leaders who can create more change in their lives than I will ever be able to approach in mine. And then I try to be of service to my community, and I try to make sure that, I am committed. 903 kids at our middle school, and, I will run myself crazy trying to make sure every one of them can succeed this year. But so, while I may not be practicing a religion, my faith has really been more about service these last few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of y'all. I will give you all the opportunity to answer your own question that you asked of the other, if you're interested. You don't have to, though. Do you want to speak of your own faith?
I go to church on Christmas.
Okay.
No, I think honestly, I hope that you see that we are an embodiment of the type of people who run in the Democratic Party. You guys have a really tough decision, but it's just an honor to get up in front of you guys, talk about democracy, and I really appreciate it. And I hope we have more candidates for every election that's coming up. That's all I got.
Okay, that's a good wrap. Okay, you good? Well, I'll tell you this, Randy Fine will be deathly afraid to face either one of you in any kind of forum come this spring. Any questions from out there? Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I have Mike, sir. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
So my question is, as a current HBCU student, how exactly would you assist students of color, and what strategies would you implement to continue to assist them throughout their college experience?
So how would you, what are your strategies to help historically black university students and assisting students of color in success, right? Basically? Okay. We'll start with you and then. Sure. Thank you.
So, I mean, there's a couple parts of this. There's, how do you assist young people and students today? There's, there's overlapping needs there, but then what are the needs of young black men in the community as well? And, generational wealth is a huge advantage for many white people in this country who get to grow up in a house that, was paid for on back when mortgages were affordable on, single working salaries. Their families may own multiple homes, they have rental properties, they have other things. There's wealth that's accumulated for a longer period of time than we have allowed black families to do in this country. And when college students are asked to leave home, step out, and go out to college, even though they have all the same classes and might live in the same dorm, they do not have all the same resources. It is not a level playing field. Oftentimes they have to work twice as hard to make up for the half that is often overlooked for many of the other students. So, the universal programs that ensure that all Americans have access to housing are the type of thing that will benefit all college students who, may have to struggle to work to afford a place to live while they're in school, and others don't. Medicare for all makes sure that all of our college students have access to health care, even though it would be dependent up till 26. You can have it on your parents' plan, assuming that your parents have health care they can share with you. We make a lot of big assumptions about some of these things, but programs that take care of everybody take care of everybody. And a college student's job is to go to school, and we are putting way too much on them in terms of what is needed to afford the tuition, to afford housing, to be able to afford food and eat and live while they're in school at the same time. And if you come from a race or an ethnicity in this country that has been economically disadvantaged due to extreme prejudice from the country itself over the course of its history, then it's an even more unfair load that we put on you. Those programs work for everyone, and they solve a lot of these problems when we get there.
Thank you. And just about the historically black universities and their students.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be a consultant, also a donor for both Edward Waters College, now University up in Jacksonville, and Bethune-Cookman Athletics down here. And HBCUs are absolutely vital. I mean, they are so unique, and they are so important in the community. And they suffer from a couple of things. First thing is they don't get nearly the type of private donations that they deserve, and the campuses are frankly in rough shape. Bethune-Cookman, we spoke a little bit earlier about how land and issues about land were fueling the economy here. And really, Daytona, as the city in this district, should be the economic engine here. And Bethune-Cookman should be a world-class university here. And that there's no reason why it can't be, and it has the real estate, and Daytona is the type of a location that should be. A lot of this is, a lot of this growth gets spurred by sports. It happens at University of Florida. It happens at Florida State. Is that sports grows this? We need athletic facilities here, convention facilities here that allow us to make the economy one that it is entertainment, sports and entertainment economy here instead of plowing under our land. Convention center, tourists, tourism, infrastructure for the airport, infrastructure for shipping, logistics, I-95 corridor. You know, there's so many things that we can do here to make Daytona Beach an active engine, and stop plowing down and overpopulating our other areas. So the HBCUs are huge, and I think that, you know, we put a lot of burden on our students. Students just need to be students. And at HBCUs, one of the great things about HBCUs is they get to be students in a residential setting, which frankly, you know, most of their white peers get to be. They get to go off to college and live in a dorm and be at a residential school with fraternities and with a vital social life and with athletics. And so, you know, that's what we need to do, is just raise up the HBCUs because they're vitally important.
Thank you very much. Okay, I can do one more because we're almost at 8:15, but yes, sir. I'll repeat it.
Both of you are right about the issues, but those are the issues that didn't say. So what is your message going to be in District 6, in this congressional district, to convince a red district to vote Democratic?
So what is your message to win on April to get the district to vote your way?
Yeah, I mean, there are 5 candidates running, and I'm the one who lives in the district. You know, again, intellectually, Josh can represent this district, okay? You've just heard him talk for an hour, okay? But in terms of persuading voters, what I would say to the voters is the Republican doesn't live in the district. The 3 Republicans don't live in the district, right? So vote for a candidate who lives in the district, has moderate politics, and understands that flooding and the power going out and homeowners insurance and flood insurance are the issues that you care about. And that I'm not going to try and ram culture wars down your throat. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear you. I'm going to be here. And I'm going to represent you and bring bacon back home for this district.
Josh, what's the winning message for the district in April?
You know, the number one concerns of people in this district, as we've spoken to them over the last month and a half now, are survivability. You know, how can you afford to live when a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,800 a month? How can you afford to live when you go grocery shopping at Walmart and, you know, a couple of years ago you filled up the cart, it was $150, $160. Now it's $250. You know, these prices have gone up at rates that are not commensurate with salaries. You know, people aren't making 4 times more than they were when gas was $1 a gallon to pay for it when it's $4 a gallon. And one of the biggest issues is homeowners insurance at this point. And it's something that a lot of people, especially on the coast, are hurting from because of the hurricanes. You know, we had 2 really bad hurricanes last year, and the insurance companies are bragging about their record profits in Q4, while everyone in Florida is still waiting for their claim to be paid out. Their record profits are our unpaid claims, and we need insurance regulation, and sure as hell ain't coming from Tallahassee. So these are problems that are going to have to be solved in Washington. You know, the number of problems that we have lately, whether they are in our schools, something that is supposed to be handled at the state level, whether it is insurance regulation, something that is supposed to be handled at the state level, whether it is the housing market regulation, something that is supposed to be handled at the state level, have all gotten worse in the state of Florida under Republican governors since 1998. And these are issues that can, at this point, can only be fixed in Washington. You know, we need regulations it should be illegal for corporations to own single-family residential homes. Right? And because they are allowed to, they have bought up more than half of the properties over the last decade that have gone for sale in the state of Florida, and they now control the supply and they control the demand, and they have ensured that housing is inaccessible to the majority of people living here. Homeownership is literally a dream for most people in Florida now, for young people in Florida, because it does not feel real, right? When 60% of the population has less than $400 in savings account, how the hell are you ever supposed to get a 3% down payment? Right? We have priced people out of living in this state, and the state legislature is not going to do anything about it. So if you need relief and if you need solutions, it's going to have to come from Washington, and you have a chance to make that happen with your vote on April 1st.
Yeah. Both of you guys, this was a hell of a forum. I really appreciate your being here. Thank you very much. You guys should shake hands as well, because you guys are both excellent. Wherever you may live in Volusia County, this election matters a lot, because it is an unusual, if not unique, opportunity. The fact is, and you all touched on it a little bit, there's a lot more. There's actually going to be 5 candidates, I believe, 3 crazier than the Republican candidates, plus the Republican, and then the one we want to vote for. So that means it could split up also. So I don't think any of us should give up on this race either. And whether you live in South Volusia or North Volusia, we can all help in CD6, and I appreciate your thinking about that and being committed to that, particularly after the primary, and we have one of these gentlemen representing us.